We continue now at the top of Daf Chafayim and Aleph and Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 25a. On the previous summit, the Mishnah said that you have to keep a threshing floor away from a plowed field because if it's not enough distance away, it can do damage. The Gemara asked, what kind of damage are we even talking about? And the Gemara now answers, Sha'osa oso golol, it makes an excessive amount of manure for the field, which could be damaging for the field. Rashi says, Sha'osa oso golol marbelo zevel, the chaff that's going to go into the plowed field, it's going to increase the amount of manure, it acts as manure, v'soref es azroim shenisrfu bo, and it damages the seeds that are planted there. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Marchikin es hanevelos v'es hakvaros v'es habursikim mino'ir. We have to distance the carcasses and the cemeteries and the tanneries from the city. Chamisha mama, they have to be 50 amos away from the city. Einosin borsiki el lemizracha. Also, you can't make a borsiki, you can't have a tannery except to the east of the city. Rabbi Akiva says, l'chol ruach, so you can make it on any side of the city. Chutz mima'arav, except for the west side. Umarchik chamisha mama, he has to distance 50 amos. And the Gemara will explain exactly what Rabbi Akiva means. Umarchikin es hamishram and hayerik, you have to distance the mishra, which is the water which you soak flax in. You have to distance that from the vegetables. V'es hakreishin min habitzolim, you have to distance the leeks from the onions. V'es hachardol min hadevorim, you have to distance the mustard from the bees. For Rabbi Yossi mater bechardol, but Rabbi Yossi says it's okay when it comes to the case of the mustard. And Rashi explains as hanevelos v'es hakvaros, you have to distance the carcasses and the cemeteries. Again, they have to be distanced from the city 50 amos, mishum reach ra, Rashi says, because of the bad smell. Ela lemizrach ha'ir, it said when it comes to a tannery, it has to be by the east side of the city. She'ein haruach mizrachis kasha tamid, because the wind from the east is not so difficult all the time. Ela imkein ba leporanis, unless it's coming for reasons of punishment. Aval kedarga, but generally, hi chamo min hasheves benachas, it's warm and it blows pleasantly. Dechsiv, as it's written in the pasuk, ruach kadim charishis vatach hashemesh, as it says in the pasuk in Yonah. Lefigach eina mevia hareach le'ir, therefore, if it's from that side, it's not going to bring the bad smell to the city. Chutz min ma'arav, except for the west. Begamar mefarish time, and the Gemara will explain why it is that from the west it is problematic according to Rabbi Akiva. And the Gemara says, they had the following question, Rabbi Akiva heichi kamar, what exactly is Rabbi Akiva saying in the Mishnah? Again, Rabbi Akiva says you can make the borsiki in any direction except for the west, and it has to be distanced 50 amos. What exactly does Rabbi Akiva mean? One possibility is l'chol ruach hu osa v'somech, in any direction he can make it and he can put it right up close to the city. Chutz mima'arav demarchik nun amav yosa, except for on the west side where he has to be 50 amos away in order to make it. That's one way to read Rabbi Akiva. O dilmor, maybe l'chol ruach hu osa umarchik chamisha amma. Maybe Rabbi Akiva means in any direction he can place the borsiki, but he always has to distance himself 50 amos. Chutz mima'arav, except for the west side of the city, de'ena osa klal, he can't make it over there at all. And so the Gemara is not sure exactly how to read Rabbi Akiva. And the Gemara says, Tashma, come and hear the following proof from a Brisa, the Tanya, because we learned in a Brisa. Rabbi Akiva says, L'chol ruach hu osa umarchik chamisha amma, he can make it in any direction, but he always has to distance himself at least 50 amos. Chutz mima'arav, except for the west side, de'ena osa kalikar, he can't make it over there at all. Mimnei tadira, because it is frequent. And so you see already from this Brisa that on the west side you can't put the tannery up at all, and on all the other sides there has to be a distance of 50 amos. And the Gemara continues, Amarle Rav Rav Nachman, Rav says to Rav Nachman, Mai Tadira, what does that last phrase mean of the Brisa? Because it is frequent. What do you mean frequent? Ilema Tadira Baruchos, if you say that it means that it's frequent among the winds. V'amar Rav Chanan bar Abba Marab, but Rav Chanan bar Abba said that Rav said, Dalir Ruchos Menashvos B'chol Yom, the four winds, they blow every day. V'ruach Tzafon Isim Kulan, and it's the northern wind that blows with all of them. Shel Mole Kain, because if not for the fact that the northern wind was blowing with all of them, Ein Ha'olam Miskayim, Afilu Sho'achas, the world would not survive even for one moment. V'ruach Deromis Kashem Ikulan, and it's the southern wind that's the most difficult of all of them. Vilmole ben Nates shemamid, if not for the fact that Ben Nates is a malach, it's an angel that's made, looks like a particular bird. If not for the malach Ben Nates that held it up, machareves es ha'olam, it would destroy the world. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, and this is a pasuk in Eov, hamibinosche yavar Nates. Does the hawk, does it fly because of your wisdom? Yifros kenafav l'teimon, it spreads its wings to the south. And so again, you see this ben nates, the spreading of that wings, that's what stops the southern wind from destroying the world. But in any case, what do you see from the statement of Rav Chanan bar Abba Marav? You see that it's the northern wind that is the most frequent, so it can't be that the Tadira, that the word Tadira in the Brisa means that the western wind is the most frequent. And so the Gemara instead says, Elamai Tadira, rather, what does it mean Tadira, that the western wind, it's frequent? What do we mean it's frequent? It means Tadira b'Shechina. It really means that the Shechina is frequently found in the west. It's not a reference to the wind, but it's a reference to the Shechina. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, because Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi says, Bo v'nachzik tova la'avoseinu, let's give goodness to our forefathers. Let's give them gratitude. Shehudiyanu makom tefillah, because they let us know what is the proper place of davening. Techsiv, as it's written, utzva hashamayim l'cha mishtachavim. It says that the hosts of the heavens, they bow towards you. Now the understanding over here is that they're bowing towards the west because the Shechina is in the west. And Rashi explains, Ruach tzefonis min hasheves im kolachas. Again, it's the northern wind that blows with all the rest of them. Meharuchos, all the rest of the winds. Lefi sheirako, mesuko, tzlula, kedamar biyavamas, because it's soft, it's a sweet wind. Ben nates, and then we said about the southern wind that the malach ben nates, that's the one that holds it back from destroying the world. Malach ha'aseh b'dmus nates, it's an angel that's made, looks like a hawk. Ma'amida b'chnaf, it holds back that wind with its wings. And so then the Gemara ultimately said, what do we mean that it's tadir, that it's tadira? We mean tadira b'shchina. We mean that in the west, that's where the Shechina is. B'mayrav hishochenes, the Shechina dwells in the west. La'avoseinu, we should give gratitude to our fathers, means to say the Anshe Knesset HaGadola. Here when it says La'avoseinu, it means the Anshe Knesset HaGadola. She'amru mikra zeh b'Sefer Ezra, because they said this pasuk in Sefer Ezra, which indicates that the Shechina is in the west, because it says Utzva hashamayim, it says the hosts of the heavens, which Rashi says refers to Hashemesh v'hayareach. It refers to the sun and the moon. Ha'omdim b'mizrach, so they stand in the east, they rise in the east. L'cha mishtachavim l'mayra, but they move towards the west, so it's like they're bowing towards the west. So the idea is that the Shechina is in the west. But the Gemara continues, Maskefla Rav Acha bar Yaakov. Rav Acha bar Yaakov asks on this, V'dilma ke'evet shenotel pras me'rabo v'chozer la'achorav. How do you know in terms of the hosts of the heavens? We're assuming that they're going towards the west because they're bowing towards the west. Maybe on the contrary, maybe the Shechina is really in the east, and it's like they're backing away. They've gotten something from their master, and they're backing away from the master. Mishtachave, they're bowing in the other direction. So how do you really know from the pasuk that the Shechina is in the west? And the Gemara says to that kasha, the Gemara says, indeed, that is difficult. And the Gemara continues, Rabbi Oshia Savar, now Rabbi Oshia holds Shechina b'chol makom, that the Shechina actually is everywhere. It's not in any one particular place. The Amar Rabbi Oshia, because Rabbi Oshia says, Ma'id dechsiv, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk? Atahu Hashem levadecha, atahu asisa es hashamayim. Pasuk means to say, Shluchacha lo keshluchei basar v'dam, that your agents, your messengers, meaning the messengers of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they're not like the messengers of people. Shluchei basar v'dam, when it comes to a messenger of a person, mimakom shemeshtalchim l'sham machzirim shlichusan, from the place that they're sent, they have to return to the person who sent them, so they go back to the person who sent them to say that they've done whatever they were sent for. Aval shluchacha, but when it comes to your messengers, l'makom shemeshtalchim, to the place that they're sent, misham machzirim shlichusan, and the Mesoros Hashas changes the text to sham machzirim shlichusan, and there they return the shlichus. The point is they don't have to return the place where they're going to. They can say that they fulfilled their shlichus. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk in Eov, hasashalach barakam v'yelechu, you send the lightning and it goes. V'yomru l'cha, they say to you, hinenu, here we are. And the Gemara notes, yavo v'yomru lo nemar, it doesn't say they come and they say as if they have to return. Ela v'yelechu v'yomru, it says they go and they say, melamed shashchina b'chol makom. This teaches that the Shechina is in all places. And the Gemara continues, V'yaf Rabbi Yishmael savar Shechina b'chol makom. Rabbi Yishmael also holds the Shechina is everywhere. The Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael, because it was taught in the yeshiva of Rabbi Yishmael, Minayin sheshchina b'chol makom. From where do we know that the Shechina is everywhere? Shenemar, as it says, Hine hamalach hadover bi yotzei umalach acher yotzei likraso acherov lo nemar ela likraso. It says the malach that speaks to me, it goes out, and another malach goes out towards it. It doesn't say acherov, it doesn't say after it. Ela likraso, it says towards it. Melamed sheshchina b'chol makom. This teaches that the Shechina is everywhere. And Rashi explains, V'hinei hamalach hadover biyotzei b'nevuas Zechariah. This is in the prophecy of Zechariah. Lamedes Yerushalayim kama orka, talking about the measure of Yerushalayim. Umalach acher yotzei listor shlichusa shel rishon. And the point is, the second malach is coming to contradict the message of the first one. Shechazar bo hamakom v'lo yiten ba mido v'yomer prazos teish of Yerushalayim. Again, goes against in terms of the measurements of Yerushalayim. V'arei shnei meyes hashchina boim. Now they're both coming from the Shechina. V'achar v'lo nemer, but it doesn't say that the second malach came behind the first, as if they're coming from the same place. Ela likraso, it says he came out towards the first, as if the Shechina is sending him from a different place. Zeba mikan v'zeba mikan. This is coming from here, the other malach from the other side, and so that shows the Shechina is actually everywhere. And the Gemara continues, V'yaf Rav Sheshes savar Shechina b'chol makom. Rav Sheshes also holds that the Shechina is everywhere. D'amar le Rav Sheshes l'shami, because Rav Sheshes said to his attendant, L'chol ruchsa ukman, set me up in any direction in terms of davening, L'bar mi mizrach, except for the east, don't face me towards the east. V'lav mishum deles be'shchina, it's not because the east doesn't have the Shechina, ela mishum demoru b'mini, but it's because the heretics, that's where they instruct people to daven, so he didn't want to daven in that direction. Rashi explains Rav Sheshes Ma'orei Nayim Haver. Rav Sheshes was blind, so he was telling his attendant to face him. L'chol ruchsa ukman, face me in any direction. Hamideni lehaspalo, set me up, stand me up to daven in any direction, except for the east. Demoru b'mine talmidei ovdei avodah zara morim hora lehaspalo b'mizrach. The students of the avodah zara, they tell people to daven to the east. And the Gemara continues. Rabbi Avo Amar Shechina b'mayriv. Rabbi Avo says that the Shechina is in the west. T'yamar Rabbi Avo, because Rabbi Avo says my Uriah. What does it mean Uriah? We'll see Rashi in a moment. But it means Avir Kod, means the air of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Rashi explains, Orya ani shamati kach korin l'mayriv b'loshan Parsi. Rashi says that I heard that this is what they call the West in the language of the Persians. V'linear, but Rashi says it seems to me, shekach korin l'mizrach, that this is actually the term they use for east. B'loshan laz, v'hainu dekamar Avir Kod, that's what it means, the air of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What it means is, shehashchina b'mayriv, it means the Shechina is actually in the West, u'panav l'mizrach, and it's facing towards the east. Nimsa ha-mizrach aviro, so it comes out that the Mizrach can be called the Avir of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In any case, the point over here is that the Shechina is in the west. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, Ma'idach siv, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk, Yarov kamot or lichi, that my doctrine shall drop as the rain, Zu ruach ma'aravis, this refers to the western wind, Sheba me orpo shalolam, which comes from the back of the world. Rashi explains, Yarov kamot or lichi, Moshe Rabbeinu dimo es ha-Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu is comparing the Torah la'arba ruchos, to the four winds. Keshem she'efsha belohem, just like it's impossible for the world without them, kachi efsha li'olam below Torah, so too it's impossible for the world without Torah. Me orpo shalolam, from the back of the world. Rashi has two explanations. Ani shamati me chozko shalolam, I heard that the explanation is from the strength of the world. Al shem shashchina b'mayrav, because the Shechina is in the west, really, because that's what he holds. V'ani omer, but Rashi says that I say me achorav shalolam, it means the back of the world. Shahamayrav karei ochor, because we find the west is called the back. Shenemar hin kedem ahalech ve'enenu v'ochor v'lo oven, as we find in the pasuk in Eov. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk in Hazino continues, Tizal katal imrasi, my speech, it should distill like the dew. Zu ruach tzefonis, that refers to the northern wind. Shemazela says hazav, it makes gold, that gold is like cheap, means to say, it makes everything else expensive. People have to spend a lot of their money. Rashi explains Shemazela says hazav, shemechamemes umevia sharav v'ravon ba v'hazav zol. It's warm and it brings that there's a famine, there's not a lot of food available, and so people have to spend a lot of money. That's mazela says hazav. The gold becomes much cheaper than the food, and that's why again it says in the pasuk Tizal katalim rasi. And the Gemara continues, V'chein hu omer, likewise it says in the pasuk, and this is a pasuk in Yeshayahu, Hazolim zav mikis, you who lavish the gold from the bag, again using the same term as Tizal. And the pasuk in Hazino continues, Kiseirim alei desha, like the small rain on the tender growth. Zu ruach mizrachis, this refers to the eastern wind. Shemisa eres has kala olam kesoyer, that it rages through the world like a demon. And finally, the pasuk in Hazino says, "V'cherevivim alei esev," and like showers upon the herbs. Zuruach deromis. This refers to the southern wind. Shehimala revivim, that it brings up the showers. Umegadelas asavim, and it causes the herbs to grow. And the Gemara continues, Tanya, we learned in a Brayser, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Rabbi Eliezer says, Olam, the world. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chaf Hey Amid Beis.